in first generation Roundup technology. Mr. Gary?
Thanks, Ron. Probably nobody's ever seen one of those weeds. I'm probably the only one that's got one. But when you asked me to talk, I thought, well, this is a little bit different just talking about the conventional soybeans, because everything's changed since Palmer. So we're going to run through this pretty quick, and everybody that's where I'm located, up in northeast Arkansas, in Poinsett County, a little town of Weiner. And that's the kind of year I had this year. I did get one bean up in there, but that's a silt loam soil. Landy knows exactly where I'm talking about. He was out there several times wishing it was better. But when you get the crawdad mounds taller than the beans, things don't go very well. We got 40 inches of rain in 150 days starting 1st April. So we pretty much, everything we touched went wrong, but we worked through it. First off, you got a lot of choices out there, and I don't want anybody to think I'm anti-GMO. I'll grow anything I can maybe make a buck on or break even on. Here lately, last year was the first year I've ever raised any Liberty. We took over a farm that had a pretty bad resistant pigweed issue that we hadn't had to deal with previously. So the rest of the farm had a little bit, but not anything really bad. But what I'm really going to talk about is the public Roundup Ready ones. This is the first year they've been out where you could buy them and grow them yourself. Some specialty soybeans. Most of those are GMO as far as I know right now. I did grow some of those, and conventional, which I've been growing for a long time. There's some people growing organic. I don't know anything about those. First thing you're going to have to do, and we do this in Arkansas, and pretty much everybody's trying to adapt this technology or this system. If you're doing anything different or special, you can make sure everybody knows about it. Use flag the technology, put up barrels of that color, but you're going to have to do it. We're going to be fighting drift no matter what kind of technology we use, because there's going to be too many different things out there. All right, nobody wants to mess with anything if they don't think it'll yield. I've grown the Osage and the Ozark for several years. The new ones that are out, the last number in the Arkansas system is the year it was released generally. So 5014 came out last year. The C stands for conventional. So those two came out. You can see what kind of tolerance they have. Most of the stuff coming out of the university program are pretty tough and try to be tested for most of the things we have to deal with on the farm. The last one that I have grown 5612 quite a bit, pretty much have replaced Osage with it. The 5414, as far as I know, that's the first public Roundup Ready one to hit the market. You can buy them, you can save your own seed and plant them yourself the next year. You can do the math pretty quick. In my part of the world, about $3 a bushel will put that in a bag, cleaned and stored and insured for you to plant the next year. So $3 over the market, and then add your seed treatment or whatever else you want to do. So that's a possibility. If you want some cheaper ones, we'll talk about what kind of potential it's got. Thank Jeremy for letting me borrow some of his slides. Ross, we've highlighted the conventionals in there. You can see some of the companies also have some conventional varieties. They're in the top group there at Stuttgart this year. You can look at the 2-year average. So they're competitive, and that's what I've seen on my farm. If you compare apples to apples, they're pretty well competitive in most cases. If you see a experimental line that's got S on it, those are the Missouri program lines that are coming along. I had got to be out with both of the breeders last night, so kind of hot off the press. Missouri's going to be releasing 2 Roundup Ready 1 lines this coming year, and I think one of them's going to be a 4-9. Same kind of program, you can save your own seed. Chin's got some coming, and they'll be coming out this coming year too. So I may have to get the notes to get you the numbers, because they're just now beginning to number them. There's the 5612. You can see what it's done. You probably recognize some of those other varieties. Down here, here's the 5414. It's not at the top, and it's probably not going to be. If you'll look, Chin will tell you it's 7-8% off the very top variety. But you can do the math on saving the seeds. The seed's cheaper if that's worked for you. I'll show you some more yields of it later on too. All right, we had those, some of those varieties were in the verification program in Arkansas. Most of you probably know where that's where we take the local guys, and we try to use the university and proof them to make sure the university recommendations are working. But they both made in the mid-60s, 5414 made 75, I believe they're not published yet. I think that number's going to be 77. So, I mean, it's got some potential. It can do it. If that had been up against the very hottest line, you know, it probably wouldn't have been, you'd probably got beat. I mean, just be honest about it. It's not going to be, you know, 100% of the very best variety. But it does have some top end potential, and I think that's what we all like to have. In the Grow for the Green, which is the yield contest in Arkansas we've had for several years, had 4 conventional varieties entered this year, and that was the average. They range from 73 to 82. You know, we got guys growing 100 bushel beans, but those weren't on those 100 bushel bean fields either. So, but they still did pretty good. And the top yielder was 5612. So that was a university variety, and the other 3 were company varieties. So it beat the company varieties under that scenario. Something when you get into the specialty bean area, new group that's been formed called the Natural Soybean Grain Alliance, and Lanny can tell you a lot about that more than I can. I want to thank Kelly and him for letting me use some of their slides. I did grow this variety this year. It's called Arkansas Natural 5.6. It is a large seeded specialty soybean. If it's going to fly, it's probably going to fly as an IP variety, identity preserved, something that you keep separate. It's non-GMO, very high protein, and fits in a lot of specialty markets. There's supposed to be a container of those either in China or on a ship almost there.
It's there.
Did they get there? They got there. So if they like them, then maybe, you know, this system can get going. I've got a couple thousand bushels sitting in a bin that hopefully will be seed for next year. Maybe they'll work for that, and that they can expand that program. It yields kind of like 5414. It's going to be less than your top yield. It's going to be down 6, 7, 8% probably. I made about 46, 47 on the field I had, and you know, that was pretty good for my part of the world this year with what it went through. It had a little bit of water damage on the bottom, but you know, it's a really pretty bean. I really didn't have any trouble growing it. Kept it pretty clean, pretty easy. The other one is called Ashlock, HP5A. The HP is for high protein. I tried to grow that. If you remember that first slide with the crawdad mound, that was that field. That was where I was supposed to be growing some seed for that one. That one does have equal to or greater yield than your top yielder. So you can pretty much figure this one will be 100% of yield. It's not necessarily going to be a specialty variety, but it is high protein. They're working with, like I was talking about in poultry in my area, they're growing a non-GMO chicken. They want fed non-GMO soybean meal. You know, they would obviously rather have a higher protein line if they can get it. So they may pay a little extra for it. We'll see how that all works out. But that's sort of specialty stuff. And a little bit about them at the promotion board level, which I'm on the Arkansas promotion board. We had been telling them that, you know, to breed a variety and put it in the seed warehouse and pat yourself on the back, nobody knows about it. It's not doing you much good. So we needed some kind of a system. This may be it, that may be part of the puzzle. Hopefully we can get some of these varieties out, grown in Arkansas, getting a premium, and get your checkoff money converted right back to you in your pocket on your farm. So it hopefully going to be an option, but we need somebody to kind of put everything together and get stuff started, and that's what they're trying to do. And you can see some of the things that they're going to work on there. And those are the 2 varieties, and we've talked a little bit about them and what's going on there. And so I grew one of them, tried to grow the other one. So we'll see how it goes. Okay, look, Ma, no tech fees. That ran at the release of that last year or the end of 14, and you know, that's a new animal to think about. If Roundup Ready 1 still works for you, you can make it work, or you're scared of drift, you're trying to cut cost. That was out. Several seed producers grew them. They yielded, you know, fairly well across most of the conditions. I talked to several farmers that had them, seed dealers getting interest from a lot of different, even out of the state. A lot of people are thinking about that. Like I said, there's some new ones going to be released. Why in the world would you even look at any kind of specialty variety? And that's probably hard to read, but this is an actual picture I took in Kauai, the island of Kauai in Hawaii. And it says, locally grown produce, 100% organic, no high fructose corn syrup, cash on. And that's at a shaved ice stand. You know, how much non-GMO stuff can you use in shaved ice? I don't know, but I mean, that's the mentality some people have. So, I mean, if they're willing to pay a premium for it, I'll be willing to grow them some, you know, and that's just stuff you have to think about. Well, how can you do that? You know, a few years ago when I was talking about this, it was just, gee, I didn't even know you could still grow conventional varieties. Everybody's on Roundup. We just plant them, spray them a couple times, everything works well. Well, we all know that's changed with Palmer. That's not going to work anymore. Nobody's going to be able to do that anymore. If you're going into any of these, the non-GMO, the conventionals, the Roundup Ready ones, if you got a severe pigweed problem, this is not your animal. You probably don't need to be doing it. You need to be growing another crop. I think Bob Scott will tell you that. You need to get out of soybean, where your only choice is Liberty program. And then you're back to maybe developing resistance to that. So I'm not going to take you down that road, but if you can do it, that's a field of mine a couple of years ago. Those, I think, are Osage. You know, you can get them clean. We still get pretty good weed control. Tillage is an option and something we do quite a bit of in my part of the world. You know, sometimes we get a great seed bed, and sometimes, you know, we end up with this kind of mess. And when we end up with that kind of mess, I like to have, if I got my own seed, I can up that seed rate and afford it. You know, I can't do that if I'm buying them from anybody else to speak of. So that's an option you can throw in your quiver there to use. Seeding rates, like I said, you got the option of planting more. You may become your own replant policy. You know, people have been around as long as I can. Remember when we used to do that commonly? You know, if you thought you needed 1,000 bags, you'll keep 2,000 bags, you know, or 3,000 bags, you know, and you can always sell them in the oil market or wherever later on. But you've got an option to do some higher seeding rates if you need to, or you can do the normal, you know, whatever, and make it work. So, all right, we've probably all seen stuff like this before, you know. Boy, I thought I was doing good, but I missed some, so I sprayed them again, and boy, didn't get that one. What the heck happened? You know, so this is what we're getting to. You know, if you've got PPO resistance coming on too, it's just going to be a struggle. But where they're not too bad, you know, we've been able to, and I'll show you some pictures of some of the fields this year. We've been able to get by, and what I usually do on my conventional beans, just me, you know, is either put out prowl if I'm right beside a rice field and the wind's blowing 90 miles an hour, I'm afraid to get drool drift, that's what I'll put out. You know, if otherwise I'll put out dual. If they're conventional beans, I'll probably throw Sitzer in there. Yeah, that's a PPO, but we're getting some morning glory control out of it, and we're not. And there's some pigweeds that are not going to be PPO. I hope I don't have any, but if I don't have them, my neighbors will get them, or our friends in the highway department in my part of the world will bring them in on the mower right quick, and you'll get them along the edge of the field. So that's what I usually do, and then come back with, you know, Flex Star and Scepter if I need to. The last 2 years I hadn't been able to get any of that out because we're getting the plant back period on rice. It's been so wet. So we've had to substitute Blazer or Classic, but we've been able to get them fairly clean. That's Osage field again. You know, we've been able to get it done. Given I don't have tremendous pigweed pressure there. Hopefully won't get. But I would almost bet, and I drive the combine, that I didn't have a single soybean field this year, even with us roguing and looking with binoculars and doing everything else, that I didn't at least have a suspect little bitty pigweed go in the header. Maybe just one in a 200-acre field. But there was, you know, you sure can't stop a combine 5 or 6 miles an hour, no for sure. But I just almost bet we're getting them brought in from somewhere, floating in. So, I mean, we're just going to have to work through it. What's the advantages and disadvantages? And that is the field of that 5.6 variety I was talking about. So, you know, we got them pretty clean, didn't have a lot of issues. And that field is right next to a highway, and we did have to hand pull some right along the edge, but we didn't have any out from the edge. We've been able to try to keep away from them. The cost deal is the seed is the main thing. We've talked about that. The premium market, you can grow. If it's an IP variety, you're going to have to grow, you know, it for a specialty market and do the extra things you're going to have to do. If it's non-GMO, you can still come out pretty good just hauling them off. And I have had, it doesn't happen very often, but I have had the phone ring in the combine cab, because I'll tell all of my local brokers and dealers I've got so many acres of conventional soybeans, and what variety most of the time, because sometimes highland color matters. And I have had one time, the ones they had contracted flopped. And they called me in the combine cab, you know, begging me to sell to them, and it worked out. You know, they sent trucks to the turn row, and we got a premium we weren't expecting to get. So sometimes, you know, something good does happen. you know, you've got competitive varieties. I showed you that pretty quickly, but you know, the yields can be there for most of them. You know, some of them you'll know on the front end that they're not. You just have to do the math, see if that works. It gives you some flexibility, you know, if nothing else, keep you in practice, because you're going to have to learn some of these old technologies about going back and putting out pre-plant incorporated, maybe even chemical, doing tillage, things like that. But the saving on the seed with the Roundup Ready ones is going to be a big deal, because I know a lot of people are scared to death about drift, and rightfully so, you know. So if you're, you know, I'm in a situation where, you know, all our neighbors tend to work pretty good together, and we all try to tell each other what we're doing, because we're dealing with Clearfield rice, conventional soybeans, Roundup, Liberty, you know, so we try to work. There'll be a boo-boo sometimes, but we try to work. You got flexibility, you know, do different seeding rates. Disadvantages, you know, you don't have 300 varieties to pick from. You know, you just don't, you know, so you're going to, you know, but the ones that are out there are pretty good, and I'll get my note in a minute and tell you how many new ones are fixing to hit coming forward. Particularly if you go in the IP market, you're going to have contamination issues. You just got to address, you know, and may have different specs. It may not amount to a whole lot. You know, hopper bottoms are pretty hard to clean out, are pretty easy to clean out, combines are not. So you just have to see what kind of tolerances you have. I usually try to work mine out where I plant, you know, we'll plant rice first. We'll try to have the 4.9s, whether they're Roundup or whatever, ready when we get through with the rice. And then most of the time my conventionals are 5s. By the time we get those Roundup cuts, we can clean up one time and cut conventional soybeans. If they're going for a premium, we clean up. If they're not, we don't, you know. We go on, cut them last. So that works out pretty good for us. You know, you may have some handling issues. You gotta address it, particularly for the specialty market. So, you know, watch timing and drift. Timing and drift's gonna be it's not really different, I don't think, anymore, because it looks like we're gonna have to do that on just about everything. That's the kind of year we had this year. Again, you know, we averaged 27 hundredths of rain for 150 straight days. If it had come that evenly spread, it wouldn't have been so bad. But them 6, 7, 8, 9 inch at a time shots, but those beans up here toward the shop, they're way up the hill, you know, they made mid-50s. You know, these didn't do so great. But yeah, I thought I'd get to a pretty picture, because about everything you hear is not real great. So, you know, maybe next year, 2016, everything will go pretty good, and we can all, you know, watch this proceedings on the beach on our iPad next year or something. But that's a pretty nice picture there that I took a couple of years ago. And, you know, you might not be able to get a pot of gold by doing any of these things at the end of your field, but maybe at least you can get through the year with them. So I'll just give you some different options. So, and I'll get those new varieties, because I can't remember off the top of my head. But anybody got any questions?
I got a question.
Sure.
Heavy clay soil, conventional soybeans, what?
I don't have what the kind you got. I do have some clay next to the view, and that real cloddy picture I showed, you know, that's it. And that's really one of the places I started doing this, because I threw this, that, and everything at it, and couldn't figure out what I was going to do. And I started doing that, playing heavier seeding rates to try to do the same. And that's where I really got started. And, you know, it does as good as anything there.
Is there some indeterminate conventional variety?
Very few. Let me get my notes here. I think, do you remember Lanny, the one that's Grover's relation, that 4.9, is it in the?
I don't know how that's going to be marketed.
Yeah. There's one that's actually going to be, got a new term, semi-indeterminate. So there are actually some of those coming along, but most of these are determined.
There are some private companies that have.
Now there's some, you know, some of the commercial companies.
If I messed around and booked a bunch of conventional beans, I've never grown any. I figure I couldn't do any worse than I've been doing, so I must have saved on the seeds somewhere.
Yeah. Okay, he's,
There's some.
5213, made about 50 bushel on some people I talked to. 5014C made about 50. He's releasing, it'll be called UA 5116C, a conventional variety. It'll be a very early 5. It shows in the data, and you know how this works when you know you got the plots, but it shows the yielding right with after 046 tape. So it's got some yield potential. The other one he's releasing is UA 5615C, which is maybe going to replace the one he's got, the 5.6 he's got out now. The new Roundup release, here's another little tweak. we can't use RR anymore. The Roundup Ready patent has went off, but the Roundup Ready term is either copyrighted or trademarked. So the new terminology is going to be UA 5715 GT, glyphosate tolerant. So, and it's going to be about 2 bushels to 3 better than the 54.1, is what they're going to do. And Missouri's released a 2 Roundup Ready 1. So, anyway, you got any more questions? All right.
Thank you, Mr. Garrett.